This message for the brothers out here. We also need to organize 20,000 men in Chicago to kind of go out here and do some outreach to our young brothers to stop killings on the front end. Most people know what I'm talking about. You don't have to kill just because of any little reason. Most of these killings over petty reasons, okay? And we got to get to the point that we sit down as men and work it out, no matter how long it takes. But the police cannot stop killings in the black community. Hear me clearly on that. It's going to take black men to step up, get out their comfort zone, and stop making excuses for what's going on.
Today on the Vibe Cultivator Network, we are interviewing Mr. Tio Ceasefire Hardiman. So, Mr. Hardiman, can you tell us a little bit about, your background and how you got the name Mr. Ceasefire, and just give the audience a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Well, first and foremost, I was born in the heart of the ghetto, like a lot of people. I just want to say that. I grew up in the Henry Horner projects on the west side of Chicago and the Avalon Park community on the south side of Chicago. Things were kind of rough growing up, just like a lot of people go through changes growing up, so I'm not unique. A lot of people struggle, just born and raised. It's kind of tough. Born in poverty and had to pull myself up by my bootstraps.
Were you in a single-parent household?
My grandparents raised me. And when my grandparents passed away, then I ended up shipped to the west side of Chicago and around my mother and, in the projects. But, it was cool. I wouldn't change nothing if I could. Basically, I used to love the projects. I love the south side. I love the west side. All of Chicago, really. So it wasn't, it might have appeared kind of difficult because you're growing up in poverty, but at the same time, you don't see it when you're young, like you may see it as you look back on your life. But, I grew up in a pretty rough community around a lot of, I grew up around pimps, prostitutes, killers. I even grew up around business people as well, politicians. So it wasn't just all negative influences in the neighborhood, but it was a lot going on. Just put it like that.
So how do you think your experience growing up in poverty shaped you, and which of those figures did you look up to? The pimps and the gangsters, or the politicians and the businessmen?
Well, it was a mix for me. That's funny you asked that question. It was a mix for me. I looked up to, you had no other choice but to look up to the cool guys in the community and some of the stand-up guys, because they were right outside your window, okay? Those were the guys that was riding the big Cadillacs and doing whatever they was doing. When I was a kid, I used to think, man, you was a millionaire if you had a Cadillac. How you know?
So, Mr. Hardiman, can you tell us, how did you get the name Mr. Ceasefire?
Well, pretty much the name Mr. Ceasefire, I got that name because all the work I put in here in the field of violence prevention, saving lives. I'm one of the only brothers that you might talk to in Chicago. I'm not saying I'm the only one, but one of the only brothers. Like the godfather of the violence prevention movement here in Chicago and throughout the nation. I'm the guy that created the Violence Interrupters. All praises due to God. But Mr. Ceasefire, my name became synonymous with Ceasefire because I'm the former director of Ceasefire, Illinois. And we put a lot of work in. I'm talking about, we work with over 1,200 high-risk individuals. We spent like 22,000 man hours with them guys and mediated around about a good 800 conflicts. And when I'm talking about mediating conflicts, the work is not for the faint at heart. Do not try it at home, because if you really, really want to save a life, it's going to take some form of confrontation to a degree. Not necessarily physical all the time, but it gets kind of rough. And people tell lies all the time saying they stopping killings. But if you have never been involved in a confrontation while you're trying to stop a killing, I think people are lying about it, because I've had some close calls.